What was it? Oh, we're live. And then Alex walks away.
The appropriate way to start Floor is Yours, an extension of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure to check out 5reasonsports.com, F-I-V-E, reasonsports.com, where you can get this T-shirt. What other T-shirts can you get there? Who's wearing tonight? This is Just Dogs. The Giannis Bam 21 T-shirt. You can get that one as well. I don't know what else we're in.
You can get this at Walmart.
Right by the graphic tees on the side.
$5.
$8.99.
That's pretty good. Oh, and Manny's got the Black Lives Matter shirt.
What's happening to Ethan? Ethan's making his own Black Lives Matter statement. All right, well.
Very powerful.
Right. I'll go ahead and get it started. Thanks for tuning in. Looks like we already got plenty of people on the chat. Is this going to start? My Chipotle is getting cold. Go ahead and start eating your Chipotle because we are live. With me today, I sound like Giancarlo Navas. We got Alex Toledo, a.k.a. Tropical Blanket. What's going on, Alex?
What's up?
We have, I hate calling him Greg Sylvander. We got Leif.
Yo, what's up?
What's happening? All right, so I think what Ethan really wanted to get into and what a lot of people have been talking about on the Ethan's in mid-season form. Yep. What a lot of people want to talk about is this mid-level exception and what the Heat are going to do with it. And there's been some reporting lately. Greg, you were on top of this, that what the Heat really want to do is actually split their mid-level instead of just going all in on one guy, splitting it between two vets. And names like Wes Matthews and Paul Millsap have been coming up. So what have you reported on it? What have you heard about it?
Well,
the
I
commenters
confirm,
are killing me.
Yo, I can confirm we are not giving any kind of balloon payment to Hassan Whiteside.
Okay,
that is
good.
not happening.
You heard it here first.
Right? No, but honestly, I was actually surprised to hear that there were conversations and thoughts that they would be able to split their exception between like Wes Matthews and Paul Millsap. Those were the names that kind of got floated out there because I've been kind of operating under the assumption that Millsap would cost the entire mid-level and that guys like Gallinari and Ibaka and all those guys, it's going to cost the full mid-level. And it'll be interesting to see if I'm over – if the market is just going to be that dried up where guys aren't getting money and you're going to be able to split exceptions with two guys, because that's an ideal scenario for the Heat.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to take a lot of trust from these vets. But it's you have to think that the Heat's run this playoffs and the fact that they were a finals team and they really felt like they were a piece or two away, you're going to think a guy like Paul Millsap probably looks at it and says, man, if I was next to Bam out there, I could have he did a great job on Anthony Davis in the series against the Lakers. So he probably thought, man, I could have gave Bam some minutes. If Bam was out injured, we maybe could have still won a game, even with Bam out. So you got to think that maybe these guys are saying, will they forego the big payday for a chance to win? Alex, what do you think of this scenario of them splitting the mid-level exception between two guys? You think it's feasible, or do you think it's kind of just pie in the sky Heat fan hopes? Well, Greg Sylvander is pumping into the atmosphere.
Hope trafficking.
As a hope trafficking expert.
Listen, I'm all in on that, right? Like, I think that's something that surprised me in a good way. But once you really start going through the market, like, it's tough, man. Like, I don't think that all of these guys are going to get paid. Like, there's only that many teams that have actual money to offer. And the Heat are the only good team, right? And, of course, some of these guys could take an exception with a contender. So that's what, that's where they got to weigh their options. But when you talk about the Heat, I mean, Millsap makes just so much sense when you talk about the basketball fit, when you talk about a guy who's already made so much money in his career, a guy who probably wants to win at this point. And I think like this probably would have been a little bit more far-fetched, the idea of them taking slight pay cuts beforehand. But I think COVID kind of messed up the market. We don't know what the money situation is like. I believe it was Bobby Marks who said that his range should be somewhere between $6 and $8 million.
Yeah.
So if it's $6 million, right, and then Wesley Matthews is like, okay, I'm good with 3 point whatever or 4. I mean,
Well,
it seems like this would be the year to get that done.
That, like you mentioned Bobby Marks and his projections. Shams in his latest article said multiple sources around the players union say that the luxury tax and the salary cap are going to stay flat to last year. So I think that could also impact the market if they're not getting that $6 million or so hike in both spots from the luxury tax and the salary cap. Maybe guys are going to get squeezed, and that presents interesting circumstances. Because something to clarify also, and then Ethan, you could jump in here finally, is that it's not an either or with Jay Crowder and Paul Millsap. They have Jay Crowder's bird rights and can retain him after, and then use the exception independent of that. So, so don't think about it from a Jay and Millsap. You have to choose between the two. I think Jay would start and Millsap would come off the bench in that scenario.
Well, let's get into the financial stuff, and thanks for bearing with me. I had to deal with something. But basically, I'm a little confused, okay, on some of the numbers that are being spit out right now. Bobby Marks' numbers were very low to me.
Me too.
Right, very low. And I don't really think anything's been determined. I understand that Shams and Woj have had these reports, but we've swung wildly over the past week from, okay, they're going to try to start December 22nd or 23rd and play 72 games, right? Not wait for fans to come back, just start the season, not wait till March. Then all of a sudden it's, okay, LeBron is leading a charge to start on MLK Day, which is another 3 weeks later. Well, that may squeeze the season, which squeezes the revenue going forward, right? So I don't – the numbers seem low to me. Like, okay, if you're mid-level, I mean, if Millsap's going to take that number and Wes Matthews may take that number, then you may be able to get that done. But I don't know, man. And looking at those two players in particular, we've both reported, and we had this with Adam, first. Everything is kind of going on with Matthews. Jimmy wants Matthews here.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthews is in. The Heat would like Matthews here, but Matthews loves Milwaukee, and so they're going to make a push for Matthews. But he likes his situation. I think he's going to.
Who loves Milwaukee? What the hell is that?
Hey, they got a good team and a good role.
And he played.
Isn't he from there?
Ralph. He played at Marquette.
I know, but exactly. Why wouldn't you? I went to Gainesville. I got the hell out of there as soon as I could.
A lot of Marquette guys have came to Miami and they have had a good time.
Yeah. No, everyone comes to Miami and has a good time. No one stays in Milwaukee.
Right. No, I get it, but it also comes down to role. I mean, Wes Matthews was starting against the Heat. Now, what is his role going to be here, right? Okay, let's roll it back. Let's say they're bringing Dragic back. Let's say you haven't traded Nunn. You're talking about Dragic, Nunn, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, all in your perimeter rotation. That's before you get to, I guess KZ is a big wing. Okay, maybe he gets some minutes. DJJ, if he's back, I don't think he's going to be, but if he is back, I guess he's also qualifies as a big wing. It's still a lot of perimeter players. I mean, is Wes going to get the 20-plus minutes a game that he was getting in Milwaukee here in Miami?
That's actually a fair point. I mean, I don't think he will be starting here. I mean, honestly, you could, right? Like, I think you could keep Tyler off the bench to say that they were to acquire Wes. You could keep Tyler and Goran off the bench and have that crazy bench lineup. And there goes Ethan once again with the powerful message. But I don't think Wes would start.
He's really about the cause, man.
I love it.
He wouldn't start because Goran, like, this is something.
Wait, but why couldn't he start? Why couldn't he start?
He could start, but it would have to be probably over Hero, I think.
He agreed. I just kind of, I think Hero's going to take over there, but Goran may be slow to be back. Like, I don't think we should assume that Dragic is going to be ready to go at the beginning of the season. So he may also get spot minutes that way. You know what I mean? Wes Matthews.
Honestly, I don't think Hero starts. I don't think Goran starts. I think if they bring in a guy like Wes Matthews, I actually think he starts. And Jimmy in the starting lineup handles a lot. Him and Jimmy handle a lot of those ball handling duties. He's not exactly a creator, but this team doesn't necessarily need an on-the-ball creator. They do so many other things with dribble handoffs and spacing and running the offense through Bam. I mean, Bam plays point most of the game anyway. So in a starting lineup, Wes actually could start. I think he could start next to Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, and let's say they did bring in a guy like Paul Millsap or it's Jay Crowder and Bam. I think that's a formidable starting lineup. I don't think you would have to bring him in off the bench. I think he's viable in the starting group.
I'm back. Can I just tell you all something without getting into too much details here? Android phones have this thing where they like trigger an SOS message, and that's why I have chaos here tonight. That's all I'll say. So get an iPhone, okay?
I have an Android. And I don't even know how to send an SOS message.
I had to make sure my daughter was okay, so I got this SOS message, and that was FHP calling me to check. So yeah.
Okay, well
everything's fine. Where were we?
That's important. I'll stop making fun of you now.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, no, you won't. All right, where were we? Are we still talking about? We moved back to Millsap.
No, we're talking about Matthews and if he would start, and kind of if Goran were slow to be back. That's kind of where we left off.
Okay, all right. So I get what, and Greg, you and I talked about that. If Goran is not going to be back by the start of the season, if it's December, he may not be back by the start of the season. If it's January, he may be, right? Because we said it was like a 2 to 3 month recovery from what he dealt with, as long as he didn't make it worse. But okay, let's say Goran is not there. I still don't. I mean, they still need a playmaking. I mean, Wes Matthews is not that anymore, right? So
no,
they're still going to need a playmaking guard unless they're going to give Nunn all those minutes if he's still around.
Or make a trade. You know, they can consolidate multiple expirings and flip a deal. Like, I think they can do all this in concert. That's kind of the cool part about the flexibility that they gained with what they did at the trade deadline.
All right, let me pivot to this, and Alex, I'll go to you on this. So if you get Millsap, let's say that he comes in for $4 or $5 million. Let's say that it's accurate that he's not going to be asking for that much. And let's say you have the money to re-sign Jay Crowder. Does it even make sense? Because, I mean, you're basically committing to playing small then, aren't you? Because to create minutes for Jay Crowder at the 4 and Paul Millsap at the 4, you're going to be playing Bam at the 5 almost exclusively.
To me, honestly, it doesn't really matter there. I'm good regardless of just getting the both of them and figuring it out after, because to me, okay, first of all, what Millsap does is make Kelly Olynyk absolutely more expendable. And I'm not saying that they're the same type of player or anything by any means. But I just think once you start putting in Millsap and you keep Jay Crowder, obviously one of them has to start, one of them has to come off the bench. And I think they'll be fine either way. But I do think it will be in their best interest to probably end up shortening that rotation to having Millsap as that last big. I mean, we saw Kelly didn't get that many minutes down the stretch, and I think that's something that would happen if Millsap was here too. I think kind of Kelly will be pushed out a little bit, phased out, but I'll be fine with it. Like, I just think they need the two-way guys. They need those types of players on this team.
What do you think, Alf? Is it worth having both of them?
I think definitely. I mean, at some point you stop. You don't worry as much about, the guys are going to worry about minutes, but I think Spo and these guys will figure it out. Bam at the 5 is his best role, right? It's the best role for the Heat. You would like to spell him for minutes at the 5, and that's where my concern is. Because if we're saying that Kelly Olynyk is expendable, you literally have no more big men. I mean, unless you're saying Chris Silva is going to play big minutes for you. So I don't see Kelly Olynyk as expendable. I see him as the backup 5. I see his role increasing if you bring in a guy like Millsap. Because I think somebody asked earlier about Myers Leonard. He said one of his biggest one of the things he's looking for is fit, role, and playing time. And I think he's gone. And we all love Myers, but I mean, you got to understand from his point of view, he loves it here, but he's not getting the playing time. And I see
the writing on the wall.
Yeah, so I see him gone. So I don't think Millsap makes Kelly expendable. I see Myers leaving, bringing in Millsap gives Kelly an even bigger role, which personally I would like to see, especially because Millsap is such a good rebounder.
Yeah.
You could play him alongside Myers in the second. I'm not Myers, sorry, Kelly in the second unit. You could play him alongside Kelly in the second unit and not lose some of that size and some of that rebounding.
Let's get to some other guys for the mid-level. So we threw out Wes Matthews and Paul Millsap, but it doesn't necessarily have to be them. It just means these are two guys who might fit into that particular space, who might be at the point of their careers where they're willing to take less money to try to win a championship in a place that fits them from a culture perspective. Give me some other names, though, Greg. Like, who else? I mean, if you're going to take whatever it is, $9.5 million, whatever it turns out to be, Wes Matthews and someone else, or Paul Millsap and someone else? Like, who could be the other puzzle piece that you slide in there?
I don't know, because you also have your biannual exception, the 3.6 million as well. So they can. That's why initially I was interested. I thought Myers could have the potential to come back, but his comments today about the playing time, that's just the kicker there. Because I feel like he could have a role, and they have a little bit of money to spend there. But as you look around the league, it gets weird. I don't know. I think it's important to see what the Ibaka and Gallinari situation, like what their highest number comes to, is going to dictate a lot top down. So it's just at this point, I think it's pretty difficult with the market that's out there to know who else would be willing to split an exception. I almost think that you would be more apt to look in the trade market with Olynyk or something like that.
I think that's a great comment from Karmic Beat. Can we throw that one back up there? Can we talk about how Alf?
I mean, all season he was their best defensive rebounder. I mean, you want to take a 1-game sample versus the entire regular season?
Can you let the man read the tweet for the podcast?
Yeah, can I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
The podcast is shot at this point. Don't worry.
Yeah, Ika's disappearing. I mouthed words earlier.
On this one, this is just strictly for YouTube. All right, this comes in from Karmic Beat. Can we talk about how Alf called Myers the Heat's best defensive rebounder before Game 2, and then Myers had 0 rebounds in Game 2. Yeah, my eye test was he had 0 rebounds also. So the analytics, the eye test matchup. I will say this: I was surprised when Myers comments. In fact, I was actually thinking of having Myers on the pod in the next couple of weeks.
He's on a bus full of beer. He doesn't want to come on here.
Well, he might if he's drunk enough. But then he talked to Anthony Chang, and I was a little surprised that he made the playing time comments, because he has been so definitive about wanting to be here. And that's the kind of comment that, as much as the Heat like him, might scare them away, because they know they're going to. I mean, Riley said this in his presser. They've got more people. Supposed to have more people to play than he actually had slots. And so now, if you've got one of them who was kind of a good soldier this year, who says he wants more playing time, that becomes a bit of an issue. All right, before we get to the next topic here, I do want to introduce a sponsor, prizepicks.com. Make sure you check out the video on our YouTube channel explaining it. There's another bad Thursday night game today. It's the exact type of game that you want to do prize picks for, because you can go over or under on the fantasy projections that they use. And here's the thing: you don't have to pick like 2 guys from the same team. You can pick guys from opposite teams. You got a whole NFL Sunday. You can pick players from 4 different teams. And you go over or under. If you get it right, you can pick up to 4 different players. You end up winning money. So it's a simple way to look at it. The promo code is 5. It's a lot more fun than DraftKings or FanDuel, or certainly than year-long fantasy leagues, which I don't bother with anymore. Check out prizepicks.com and use the promo code 5. All right, so one name I think that's interesting that we've talked about before, and we haven't talked in the context of the biannual exception. Like, would Harry Giles be worth the biannual exception? If you have right?
High upside, yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, another guy, Aaron Baines, like seeing where he comes in at, I think is interesting. Jeremy Grant, we think he's going to get probably more than they can go. When you're talking about splitting, Justin Holiday from Indiana is an interesting option.
I like that one.
Yeah.
So there's names out there to kind of, but it's so difficult when you don't know what the market will be set at with some of these guys.
Yeah. Is there one of those names, Alex, that jumps out? Is Javon Carter worth the biannual?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, Javon Carter and Justin Holiday, I'd be happy to give him that. Like, I think those are the types of guys that we're talking about, just 2-way guards who you can slot in. Obviously, the fit is tough. If you're re-signing Goran, you still have none coming back. I just think it will be in their best interest to get that type of guy in the roster regardless. Maybe it's me being hopeful saying that, like, okay, come over here not knowing your role. I do think they should be going after that guy for sure. Like, I think Justin Holiday could come in and contribute right away. I think even more than Javon Carter. But both of those guys will come in and can be rotation players.
And the other one I wanted to ask you about, this one's coming a bunch of times here. Have you guys talked about Dennis Schroeder at all?
No.
I think he gets a good trade candidate thing.
I think he gets more.
Does that make any sense? If you're bringing Goran back, it doesn't make any sense, right? It's only if you're not bringing Goran back.
Yeah, that would be like the contingency plan if Goran were to go somewhere, which I don't think is going to happen. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's somebody that they could end up looking at like a year or 2 from now, or, when Goron finally like moves on from the game. I don't know why I worded it like that, but but Dennis Schroeder I think would make a lot of sense for his team down the road.
This comes in from Sean Rochester. We're just going to take your comments here going forward. Tyrann Maxey's on ESPN2 right now. Brady Hawk's written a lot about him, possibly being at number 20. We're going to have Brady on a pod next week to go through all of the players that he's projecting could possibly go to that.
That's going to be like a 3-hour pod.
Well,
right?
I mean, he'll submit 12 articles during the podcast.
Yeah,
I'll be checking and they'll be there. But we're going to get into some of the draft eligible candidates. But let's throw this out there right now, though. What are the odds that they keep the pick? We're going to do this on a pod, but we might as well do it here. What are the odds that they're going to keep the pick, Greg? And they're going to make the pick. Pat already said that. What are the odds they keep the pick?
I'm going to be super lame and go 50-50, but I actually think that the move is to trade for a 2021 first, to just trade back a year, because then they would have all their successive picks going forward for the most part. There may be one in there that goes elsewhere. So it just opens up their ability to offer multiple picks in a trade, which is a Riley special in the event that a guy comes available. So I think that that's probably, if I had to bet on a scenario, they find a team that's willing to sacrifice next year's pick and they trade for a future first next year.
Alex, is this a good enough draft to keep the pick?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of guys. I mean, I don't know enough about the draft yet, but from guys that I trust, they seem to be pretty high on just the amount of guys that you can get in here and eventually, just help your team win. And I think that's the type of, guy that he will be drafting at 20. I obviously don't have information like you guys do, so my guess is going to be 70% they keep the pick.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty high percentage. I mean, but Alf, Pat talked.
I don't feel like they're going to be looking to trade it. I think it's going to be if the right offer presents itself.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Pat talked about the fact that, and again, this may be window dressing and him kind of pumping this up so he gets more value for it. But he did say that guys come in more ready. He's not as worried about it as he used to be. I don't know how you could say they come in more ready now when they didn't even finish the college season. And most of them are still going to be coming in after 1 or 2 years, right? So what did you make of that, Alf, when he talked about, this isn't like it used to be. Guys come in. I mean, there's no 4-year guys coming.
I think he's just talking about Kentucky guys. I just think he's talking about the guys that I think the guy he thinks he's just looking at the guys that he's picked lately, and he's like, yeah, man, they come in ready. I don't think this is a general statement on the draft. And if you want to ask my percentage, I have no clue because I want everyone to understand I don't care about the draft. I don't know anything about the draft. So people tag me in these tweets about, hey, Alf, who do you think the Heat are going to pick at number 20? First of all,
why would you tell them?
I have no idea. I don't care because everyone's going to get mad about the pick, no matter who it is. Everyone's going to get pissed. And I'm going to say the same thing I've said for the last 5 years in a row. I have no clue. I don't know. I don't care.
Do you think they'll get pissed again? I don't.
Yes, they will.
I never will again. I will never doubt another pick again.
They will. It doesn't matter because everyone thinks they know everything. I know,
but at this point, it's ridiculous.
We still got bowl tweets in the bubble. We got bowl tweets. Who's Christian Wood?
He's not in the draft.
Oh, he's not
potentially available.
I picked that guy. He looks old.
He looks
ready.
He looks ready. He looks like he looks ready to play. But like I'm saying, we got bowl. I was getting bowl tweets in the bubble. People are going to be mad no matter what
because we got to draft Sekou, right? That's the pick.
Sekou D+.
The Karmic Beat has come up with. We're just going to give Alf names and ask him if it's a draft eligible player.
I'm going to start. Send me all the names you want. I'm going to start breaking them down, just like I was Chad Ford or somebody.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to do
Chad Ford.
Of the floor is yours. This is going to be where he at, or what's the thing that Barkley does? Where he play, who he play for,
who he play for.
And you know what's funny? This college basketball season, what did it really show? There was no seat. You don't know anything.
It lasted a week.
Yeah, you don't know anything about anybody. All these people I'm high on this guy. From what? What did you see that you're so high on this person?
YouTube mixtapes.
A lot of grainy EuroLeague footage. Get the F out of here. Shut up.
So where do you think Tesla Monroe will go in the draft?
I think
names.
He's a lottery pick.
Okay. All right.
Long wing, good defender.
Hyde Jenkins. What are we thinking about him?
He has a lot of upside. Sneaky athletic.
Okay.
What about Dom Kennedy?
I think he's running for office in Massachusetts.
Is that a rapper?
Here's a good question. Since we're going with questions today, what is a trade package? This is a name we haven't talked about a lot. We've done a pod on every player in the league. Brady is down to asking if the Heat should go after Josh Jackson. That's where he is. Okay,
they have no interest.
Right. That's how deep he is into this thing. LaMarcus Aldridge, though. I mean, Pat Riley has had a LaMarcus Aldridge fascination for a long time. He almost got him to take the mid-level for 1 year. Okay. Is there a trade package that makes sense for LaMarcus Aldridge?
If the value is low enough, expirings, none of that pick, the 20th pick, like I think that's a worthy shot at raising the ceiling on the team for a year, not compromising flexibility. We know LaMarcus Aldridge has Riley convo, history. So, I mean, I think it makes sense.
How does he fit next to Bam, Alex?
Honestly, I think it's a pretty good fit. I'm with it, man. Like, I don't think it's the cleanest fit, but I think that's the type of trade that makes sense when you're talking about that price point where it's like you could get him for a 1 year deal and make your team better. And I think you could play him with or without Bam. And I think that's a guy that they could go to at the end of a shot clock when things start getting tough. Like, I just don't think, Bam is that guy yet. Yeah, Sean Kingston might be available at 20. It's a sleeper pick according to Samir Bader. But no, I think LaMarcus would actually be a pretty good option. Like, I think we've kind of, just made fun of him to no end for years just for being kind of a boring player and, never being like maybe as good as he was supposed to be. But I think he'll be a pretty good fit on the team, man.
He was pretty damn good for a while. I mean, he had some playoff years that, he put up numbers. I guess
we just come for everybody, right? Is that just what it is? We just come for everybody?
Pretty much.
But can he my question on him is, can he move at all anymore? Like, he was never that mobile.
Hey, they just finished playing Myers Leonard and Kelly Olynyk all season long. I think they're gonna go right back to that drop scheme.
Lateral movement hasn't been a big concern.
They definitely won't be switching when he's on the floor.
People keep talking about Chris Dunn. Is he a free agent?
Yep.
Yeah, but restricted, I believe.
Yeah, they have the ability to match.
Tory Lane's, worried about his height, but he's a shooter. That is an excellent. That is an excellent comment.
Well done, yeah.
That is an excellent comment.
That's pretty good. I don't even know where to go for that. Who are we talking about? Oh, Chris Dunn. I mean, is Chris Dunn good?
On defense, he's really good. On offense,
point of attack,
he's really bad.
Okay.
I think how Alps just screams, point of attack.
Point of attack.
I learned that phrase this year after seeing what bad point of attack defense looks like.
How much are you willing to sacrifice offensively, though, to get a point of attack defender? I guess that's the question. Or are you better off trying to turn Kendrick Nunn into that somehow?
I think you can. I think the Heat's offense is good enough that they could have a really defensive minded somebody who could at least shoot the three at a decent clip. Which is why, like, a Wes Matthews, to me, I'm not saying that you play him exclusively as a one. Wes Matthews starting in the starting lineup doesn't scare me at all. Like, no. we went into last season saying that Justice Winslow should be the starting point guard. Is Wes Matthews that much worse of an option as a starting at a starting guard position than Justice Winslow was?
Yes. He won't be your point guard. Like, I don't even disagree.
No, not point guard. No,
but I mean, just to have him on the floor with guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam, I think. And he shoots. You have to respect him from three. And as long as that's the case, like, they really just need a 3-and-D kind of guy at the one. And I think, Wes Matthews kind of fits. Now, with Chris Dunn, if he can't play offensively, I didn't know Chris Dunn was still in the league. I'm going to be honest. I'm just reading the comments.
Top five pick.
Yeah, I know. And he's I just remember him being awful. I didn't know, like, if he turned it around or something. He had an epiphany. I thought he was playing in Australia. But
he's the Bulls.
Oh, well, the same thing. I feel like he was traded to the Bulls like 5 years ago. Is it like I don't know? COVID's messed up my entire frame.
Wasn't he? Was he?
That was like 5 years ago. It feels like.
And Zach LaVine, right? This is another good question. Sean Rochester comes in. Who's taking Dan Craig's seat? Eric Glass back from Sioux Falls. Honestly, the more I think about it, that's my guess. Is that it's just going to be Eric Glass? Who do you think? Let's go to the Udonis Haslem question. We haven't talked about Udonis at all, right? And he's been quiet since this has been over with. What is the end result here? Is he going to get another year with a playing salary?
If he wants it.
Yeah, if he wants it, they're going to do that because he sacrificed. Like I think essentially this is the way they pay him back is that they just have that open roster spot in perpetuity. But
until he's
like
50?
they're getting in a weird spot now where they have so much talent and depth that it's tough to just justify having him with that spot. So slide in with that same salary on the coaching staff. And on we go. I think Anthony Carter is a guy and Malik Allen that are both primed to take much bigger roles going forward.
I think they're grooming AC.
I thought Chris Dunn was out of the league 5 years ago. Somebody just said this is Chris Dunn's 5th year in the league.
Well,
so that
shows he was out of the league 5 years ago. That's actually
true. Yeah.
So, college.
Don't come for me, Carmen Bead.
Carmen Bead's not giving you any relief today.
I really think that's Giancarlo Navas with the anime avatar.
It could be, except it's spelled correctly.
So that's true.
Probably can't be. Eric says UD needs to become an assistant coach. First thing, he has to decide he wants to be an assistant coach, which I wouldn't be stunned if after UD plays he takes 1 year off. You know, he's got all his businesses. He's got his son is still in college playing ball, right? At Tulane, I think. Yeah. He's got another son that's coming up.
I mean, I asked him directly, "Do you want to coach?" And he said, "Hell no." Was his exact response. A lot of
things. I will say this though, Greg. He's told me a lot of things over the years he would never do that he ended up doing. So I think they can convince him, but I think more likely he's going to say, "Let me take a year." Now, Chris Bosh is not going to coach. He's got too much money. That's the thing. This is always like Dolphins fans always wanted Zach Thomas to come back and coach the linebackers, and I'm like, Zach's living on the water at Lighthouse Point. Okay, he's made more money than he knows what to do with. He comes from oil money. You really think he wants to get up and go to meetings at 6 a.m. and coach linebackers? Like, seriously?
He comes from oil money is all you had to say.
Yeah.
Oil money. That's a crazy thing to say.
No, he has oil money. Zach comes from oil money.
That is a crazy flex.
That's it.
I wouldn't even play football if I came from oil money.
No,
what are you talking about?
Yes, Steve Nash had a lot of money. That's true. But he's also the head coach. It's a little different. It's a little different than running around as an assistant for $150,000.
GP.
Okay, he has money, but he's at a different stage of his life where he's done the broadcasting thing. He's been out of basketball for a while, and he may want to get back on the road. He want to
coach Big Three.
Yes. He did coach Big Three. Yep.
Coaching experience right there.
Yeah, I'm coaching Big Three. That's true.
I like the idea of UD because you saw him leading huddles and timeouts, and it wasn't just screaming at guys, just doing the motivational stuff. He was talking about schematics and schemes and where guys need to be. Like, he was coaching. He wasn't just screaming at guys, "Hey, man up, play harder." He was actually coaching. So I think you're right. Like, if I was him, I'd take a year off, and I could see him coming back eventually. But we talked about this on the pod the other day. I don't worry as much because I feel like they have such a funnel. Like, they've created such a factory of these, and I wouldn't exactly call them SPO clones, but like SPO acolytes, where, I mean, they could bring back in David Fisdale. Like, they just have all these guys that they just have a wealth of talent to choose from. So I'm not really worried about it.
We actually had a good episode that we're going to post probably Monday about that. Alf and I did last night. So about the pipeline that they've got. But the Dan Craig thing is interesting, though. I mean,
surprising.
Just full disclosure, I texted with him a little bit the other day after he left. Congratulations, etc. Didn't really get into details about why he went. He's not going to tell me anyway, right? But it is a little bit surprising to me in the sense of it's not an up move. I mean, unless I know he's got 2 young kids. I don't know if it was about him wanting to be in a different location, or he just felt like maybe
this is it.
Coach when things fall apart with Ty Lue.
You beat me to it. Like, he knows that that's not going to happen with Spo, but he knows that the Clippers could turn into a dumpster fire fast, and I feel like he would be the next guy to step in line there. So it's an opportunistic move. I mean, I can't blame him, but I'm very surprised that he did it.
I'm surprised he did it. I'm surprised that they didn't match the money. If Eric wanted them to match the money, then I would have thought he would have matched the money. But I mean, maybe, like I said, maybe it wasn't about money. Bring that question back there. Here, could we steal Joe Harris? Oh no. Joe Harris for the minimum? No.
Joe Harris about to get $15 million.
That's another mid-level guy, Joe Harris.
Really? I think he gets more.
People were talking about him like getting $15 million a year.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Okay.
If he gets mid-level, he's gonna command the entire mid-level. You're not splitting it with anybody else.
Agreed.
What do you guys think of what Eric Deadeye bring up that question or that comment because I forget who put this out on Twitter.
Yeah, there was a report that they well, I think Barry had Barry just emptied the notebook, right? So there were 50 possibilities in there, and one of them they do admire.
He wants to be Brady Hawk so bad.
They made an offer for Paul George when he was in Indiana. They offered Justice and Goran and a bunch of other stuff at that time when they were floating him around.
I mean, look, if you get past the fact that he totally bombed in the bubble, I mean, Paul George is still elite, isn't he? He's still a top 20 player as a two-way player.
Yeah,
especially cultured Paul George, of course.
Just stop calling him playoff P, please.
Down the street, we know what happened with Paul George in the Miami area, right? Miami Gardens specifically. So I don't know that's the best idea.
No clue what you're referring to.
I mean,
Alex drove her home in an Uber one day.
He married her, didn't he? I think he did.
I think he did. After. Okay, let me stop.
Let's just stop.
Oh wait, it's not. It's not going on the podcast.
No, it's not going on the podcast.
Oh, okay, after he offered her money for an abortion. But listen, people change. You know. I was a different guy 5 years ago. I mean, come on.
Better or worse?
I was married, so I was worse.
Oh, yeah. I'm staying out of that.
I was trying to get strippers pregnant.
They don't love you.
Can we run this clip on a headliner on Twitter? Just roll it out. Oh boy.
This is why you shouldn't love me. This is why a live alpha is never good. I went on Ethan's live show the other day, and I felt like I was super professional. It was like a job interview.
Incredibly professional. You really.
It was like a job interview. I think I called Ethan Sir at one.
Hey, I went the professional route even in the test run too.
In the test run, but OnsideRadio.com it is internet radio. So I mean, technically, I don't think there's an FCC violation there. You could have done it. I just didn't want you to. Oh boy, I'm not reading Ben's comment. Okay, that one's better. Paul George is a head case in the playoffs. Has he always been? God. Has he always been? He wasn't against the Heat.
No, he was a killer against the Heat.
Yeah, and also against Toronto in the last season he was in Indiana. He averaged 30-something against them. I mean, they played really tough. He's had his moments, but he's just created this reputation, I guess, ever since Dame waved at him downhill.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much Dame. All right, so let's close here before we get in any more trouble. Has there been a name? Was there a name in Barry's piece, which again named everybody that surprised you? Was there a name that he threw out there that you're like, I wasn't thinking about him as a possibility for the Heat?
I definitely got one.
Me.
Which one?
It was De'Aaron Fox. I mean, he threw him in there. I know he threw a lot of guys, but what he said about him was like, okay, I think he said that he could be a free agent in a year. We know about his ties with Bam. He's obviously a really good player. That's one that I hadn't even considered. You know, Sacramento is not a great situation. I mean, Ethan, I wasn't even a basketball fan the last time the Kings made the playoffs. So I thought that was an interesting one. And then the other one was Lillard. I thought the Lillard thing, especially once he linked that tweet in there of what Lillard said about Miami, I'm like, just monitor the situation.
But they're two such different situations. I mean, De'Aaron Fox knows what's happened in Sacramento, right? And so
I love that idea. And
it's a great idea, and he would be tremendous in the Heat system. But I just wondering, God, that kind of speed.
Listen, Dwayne Wade was on a podcast and said that the moment he knew he had to retire is when he was watching De'Aaron Fox and he saw how fast he was. He says, "This is it. I have to get out of the league." He literally said that. So, I'm all in with De'Aaron Fox. Aside from the Giannis pie in the sky crazy options, he's as attractive as any of the others we've talked about.
Dwayne is weirdly humble about that stuff. I remember I asked him when he was still in his peak, 2011-ish, about Westbrook, and if he reminded him of athleticism of himself when he broke in the league. I was never like that, and I'm like, watch your highlights, Dwayne. From 04 to 06, okay? I mean, it didn't last as long, right? Because obviously the injuries caught up to him. But I mean, I mean, he dunked on Verjao. Like, this idea that he couldn't get up. I like the De'Aaron Fox idea because of the age situation. Like, it feels like he's a guy you can push into his prime. And I don't feel like he's picked up as many bad habits as players typically do in Sacramento. Like, there's some I wouldn't touch.
He almost got into the playoffs a year ago.
Yeah,
he did.
He's got that Kentucky seasoning hasn't rubbed off yet. Luckily,
he doesn't look like a king. He doesn't look or carry himself like a Kings player.
No.
Like he looks like he actually wants to win. It's weird. Like watching him out there, like, well, don't you know you're on the Kings, bro?
Right, exactly. Well, Buddy Hield just decided he's on the Kings, and so he wants out, and Hield wants a max.
Yeah, but Hield plays like a Kings player. Right? He's just like, I'm gonna check up as many.
38 years old, so
who cares?
That's the other issue. Adrian says Fox just needs to be on a team that can win. He'll start eating top 20 player in the league easily. I mean, I don't think people think of him that way because they don't watch him.
Oh, he's one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
So if they
got a lot of Kings games, Alf.
I do. No, I've watched a lot of Kings games. Don't start with me.
Watched a lot
just because I don't watch Christian Wood. Oh no,
Pistons games at the end of last year.
Staying in the Central Division. The Central Division is horrible.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, no, I wasn't tuning in in the Pistons games on League Pass, Alex. I'm sorry.
As soon as they
putting up 22 and 9.
I have a life.
Sign Christian Wood. We're getting him on 5 on the floor. And I'm just gonna leave Alf alone. Like I'm gonna have Alf.
My whole thing's gonna be like, who are you? Where are you from? It's gonna be a profile on Christian Wood. Like,
that's all you're gonna do.
How long have you been in the league? Like, why haven't I heard of you? Like, what have you been doing?
He had another cryptic tweet about wanting to win over money or something like that today.
Christian Wood has a Twitter account?
Ask what he was doing 5 years ago.
I didn't know Christian Wood had a presence on social media.
I thought Christian Wood was out of the league 5 years ago.
I'm gonna look this guy up. He seems like a good guy.
All right, so better or worse? Final question for Alf. Are you better or worse than you were 5 years ago?
Better or worse than I was 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely better. You couldn't let me out the house. I was trapped in the house. So when you left me out the house 5 years ago, it was a problem. It was I was a man possessed. Now.
Man possessed, gone.
Manny took me off. Manny was like, he's gonna get himself in trouble. Yeah.
I look like that. Replaced by Tony Brothers. Look at the.
I look like that guy 5 years ago.
That's right. All right. Also, Alf didn't do it, so I'll do it. Manscaped.com. Use the code 5RSN. Our listeners and viewers they're buying it. They're buying it. So go there. If you want to look like Hubie Brown, manscaped.com, 5RSN, or Dick Pavetta.
Can you do Hubie Brown impersonation again?
What's that?
Can you do your Hubie Brown impersonation again?
I can't. So what we have here. Good night.